do it.
Hello everyone, welcome live to 3YTV, tonight's broadcast of the Simbox Truck Series for the final time this season. Tonight we're at the Chicagoland Speedway, and I'll tell you what, Drew, tonight we're going to crown the Simbox Truck Series champion, and Mitchell Adams, the reigning champion, looks to defend his crown here tonight, and he has a absolute huge points advantage coming into tonight. Really, he's going to have to finish outside of the top 30 if one of these other drivers wants to walk away with the crown, and I don't foresee that happening tonight.
Yeah, we got Bill Edwards in second place in points, 35 back, and then James Zarello 38 back. So yeah, realistically, those guys, either one of them is going to have to win, and I think even then, based on the amount of cars that I'm seeing, I don't want to say that it's mathematically impossible, but he's essentially going to have to finish last place as Mitchell Adams in that number 49 truck that we're looking at right now. So it's not the most tense of championship battles, but it's not impossible, kind of based on what we're looking at. But Mitchell has had a heck of a season. 5 wins, 16 top 10s, and 20 starts total. So a heck of a performance for him tonight. And now it's just kind of finishing that last step that can sometimes be the most difficult, and that's wrapping this thing up. Apologize, Pete. I cannot hear you, so I'm just going to keep going. James Zarello kind of coming into tonight, our guy who I think has had the second best season, though is currently third in points because of how the chase plays out. He's got 6 wins and a late joiner tonight. We know that James was dealing with some personal stuff. His wife was in the very, very late stages of her pregnancy, so we're glad that he is able to join in that 9 truck to keep it exciting because maybe not a lot of practice, but I'm definitely expecting that 9 to be quick tonight. Do we got you now, Pete?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that. There was some stuff going on back behind me. I had to mute my mic there on just a brief moment. But Mitchell Adams, the number 49 machine, atop the board right now. Jeff Price right behind. In fact, both of those drivers running 30.753. Look at Ben Izenga, 30.754. Drew, 3 trucks separated by just about 1,000th of a second at the top of the board. Definitely going to be interesting to see that here tonight. But of course, big shout out to Simbox for jumping on board and sponsoring this year's truck series. Wouldn't be possible without Simbox. Make sure you check them out. There's a link in the description, facebook.com/SimboxPC, because they make a fantastic quality button box for a great price. And if you are a sim racer, you can never have enough buttons, especially if you're a driver like this one right here, Philip Scott, the National Ninja League Ford F-150. He does a lot of road course stuff on the side of his oval antics. And and I know, Drew, that having those extra button boxes, the fiddle with the traction control, the brake bias, all the other options that those GT3 cars and GTE cars have, can sometimes be very beneficial. As Philip Scott going to stay in the 10th spot on the left-hand side of your screen. But Mitchell Adams, if he leads the first lap, I think even with him just starting, he's going to pick up the championship. But as I say that, Mike Floppy Tellier, the number 97 machine, there he is on the racetrack. He's going to jump to the top of the board. We haven't seen much of Tellier this season in the Truck Series, but he's won the All-Star race, believe it or not, back at Bristol. And when he has competed, Drew, he's been pretty darn fast.
Yeah, I was about to say, we might not have seen a lot of that 97, but when we did see Tellier competing, he was towards the front and had the pace to compete. This is not a terrible surprise for this 97 to be up there. Quite frankly, same with the likes of the 49, the 07. Izenga's kind of in a similar situation to Tellier, that 07 truck. Haven't seen him full-time this year. In fact, only seen him a few times. But every time we've seen that 07 truck show up, every time we've seen the 97 show up, they have been incredibly quick. So it is no surprise to see them qualifying in the top 5 thus far with only about 20 seconds left. But Peter, we got to talk about what we expect to see here at Chicagoland with the new update that iRacing implemented this week and the multi-groove racing that they have seemed to be able to foster at tracks like Chicagoland. What are you expecting to see tonight?
Well, I don't know. That's one thing in the Facebook post that we had earlier today that we mentioned the fact that this is actually the first race on 3-wide TV since that iRacing update where they started to add some multi-groove effects to the racetrack. And I'm really excited to see what's going to go on out there. I don't know. I haven't seen it. Now, we did, of course, have just last night, we had the Taz Racing Customs Super Speedway Series in what was an absolute fantastic race. There was a couple of drivers who probably weren't expecting that race to play out much like it did. However, all things considered, pretty much a caution-free race. We finally had a caution flag right there at the very end, but nonetheless, it was a very interesting race, and we got a glimpse at how much the draft has changed. There's not as big of a draft, and so we'll see that whether or not that's true with these trucks here tonight. Of course, these trucks punch a much bigger hole in the air than the Cup cars do, so we've seen some mega draft packs, even on mile-and-a-half racetracks like this at Chicagoland or Las Vegas and some of the other tracks we've been to earlier this year. But with the reduced draft, coupled with the fact that iRacing has added more grip to higher grooves, we could see still a very competitive race. Now we're just waiting for our Sim Racing Shirts Poll Award winner. There he is, just popping up onto your screen, that being the number 97 machine of Mike Floppy Tellier. And Drew, why don't you take us through tonight's starting lineup?
Absolutely. You just mentioned the number 97 truck, Mike Tellier, our pole sitter tonight, starting to his outside. Our championship favorite starting the race, the number 49 of Mitchell Adams. Jeff Price will start on the inside of row 2 with Ben Izinga to his outside. Ben Mashburn, a nice qualifying effort in that 24 truck. He'll roll off in P5. Colin Early to his outside in P6 in that number 62 truck. Jamar Dumas, a good qualifying run. He'll start 7th with Chris Darling in that number 47 starting his outside in 8th position. JT Poole starting 9th. We've seen so much pace out of that 26 truck at certain races this year, and I would not be surprised to see him running up front as well. And the number 00, I think that's a little bit of a number change for that Dave Harvey truck that will be rolling off in 10th position. Right, I can't hear Pete, so I'll just keep on going. Ray Heilig will be rolling off P11. Robert Dudley in P12. Philip Scott in 13th. James Zarello qualifying 14th. Jason Grossi is 15th. Jordan Shepler in 16th. Travis White in 17th. Doug Milner in 18th. Adam Dahman 19th. TJ Buck 20th. Peter Serto 21st. Doug Neal 22nd. Matt Vanderkoy 23rd, Bill Edwards 24th, Jeffrey Johnson Jr. 25th, Ben Adams, Garrett Gleason, and Barry Knapp round out your field. And we are racing here at Chicagoland. Mike Tellier leads the field to the green flag. A nice start by that number 97 as he will clear that 49 truck to his outside early on through 1 and 2 as the field starts to go mostly too wide throughout the pack, as the 49 just struggling a little bit there on the high lane. I'm really interested to see if these guys can make this high lane work. We got you back here, Pete.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. We got one car in the wall. Is that the number 13 machine of Shepler? I think it might be. Yeah, it looks like Shepler just caught the wall there just a little bit. We'll see if we can go back and just catch a replay of this all by himself up there. Go back just a little bit more. Oh, he made contact with the wall in the backstretch, just got up into those branch signs, and man, almost lost control of the truck. We'll go back live, back up at the front of the field where you're starting to see a little bit of a train forming. Number 97, Tellier led the first lap over the number 14 of Jeff Price. The 49 machine still stuck up there on the high side. That is Mitchell Adams. There goes Ben Izinga, the 07 machine right there underneath him. There goes the number 47 of Chris Darling in a Camping World scheme. One of those Max Graphics paint schemes is, wow, Izinga there having a little bit of a moment in the Moroso sponsored 07 truck. Looks like he kind of washed up the racetrack. Meanwhile, up at the front, Mike Tellier and Jeff Price, they were side by side for a moment. Look at Jeff Price running that higher groove there, Drew. Looks like he might be trying to find some speed up there, trying to get some clean air on the nose as well.
Yeah, we know that number one, I think that the draft effect was pretty drastically reduced for these trucks. So maybe expecting a little bit less drafting in big packs tonight. And with that new update, they tried to improve that multi-groove racing, give guys the ability to search through the lanes to try to find the grip. And, Chicagoland is one of those places that could lend itself towards that type of racing. What really comes to mind is our tracks like Auto Club. But, really, Chicagoland's, in essence, a 1.5-mile version of Auto Club. So it'll be really interesting to see if he can make that work, as he's really hunting on the back of that number 97 at this point. Peter, but a little bit of contact. Ben Izinga keeps it together. Now they're going 3 wide into turn 3. That's not going to work. We got guys into the outside wall.
Yeah, we'll go back and watch this initial contact, and we'll just let it all play out from there. So this is where it was 4 wide. Izinga, the 15 of Dudley, and who was that? That's the 31 machine back there getting up into the outside wall. Ray Heilig, the Dirty Mo Media machine. We'll go back and get a look at what happened. Let's go on board here with the number 31. As you see, wow, that was crazy, the 07 able to save it, and then into the corner, there's contact with Robert Dudley, and unfortunately, contact with the outside wall. We talk about this track being multi-groove, but yeah, that's the groove you don't want to run. You don't want to run the wall groove here at Chicagoland, at least the one where you're scrubbing speed off the right side by just shaving the sheet metal off with that safer barrier. That's not a good thing. But meanwhile, up at the front of the field, here comes Jeff Price. Mike Tellier's led all 6 laps so far, but Jeff Price, the winner from earlier this season at Las Vegas. And I'll tell you what, Drew, this racetrack is actually somewhat similar to Las Vegas in the way it races, but we have a caution flag.
Yeah, caution is out, and I think it was involving that number 77. He's certainly very slow here. Yeah, it was. It was Doug Neal in that 77 truck going into turn 3. We'll get that replay queued up for you folks. Here they are racing down the backstretch, that kind of constant radius backstretch, and going into turn 3. Yep, the number 6 just gives that 77 a little bit of a tap, and does he loop it all the way? Ooh, that's pretty significant contact with, I believe that's the number 5. That is going to be probably terminal damage for those. And then here comes the 42 for good measure, just to make sure that 77 isn't able to get back to his pit stall, as that truck is smoking heavily. Oh, luckily Doug Neal able to keep it going there. But yeah, that's just tight racing. Because of that constant kind of, continuous curve on the backstretch, it does tighten up that entry to turn 3, Peter. And I think that's what ultimately caused that incident.
Yeah, that was definitely just a little bit of contact gone wrong. We'll see if we can go back and get one more look, maybe in slow motion at the contact. You look out back, there is Doug Milliner in the number 6 machine, and it looks like the 77 might have been coming down the racetrack just a little bit. Just not enough room given here at this point in the race, and unfortunately goes sideways in that car. Look at the 82 of Adam Dama. Looks like he made some contacts up there in the U.S. Army Esports racing machine, but unfortunately for Ben Adams, his night appears to be up in smoke already here tonight, and that will all but give the championship to Mitchell Adams with a couple of cars retired. It's over, folks. We do have a new champion here in the series, and I say a new champion, not really, because he is the reigning series champion in that number 49 machine. Adams Racing on the hood. And remember, Drew, he actually didn't race every race this season. He actually joined the season in a little bit late, missed some of the early races in the season, and was able to qualify for the Simbox Chase, and really has shown over the last couple of weeks here in the series. And got to say big shout out to him, and a big congratulations on what will be back-to-back championships, and we'll try to go for 3 in a row in the 2021A Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series here in the National Sim Racing Association. I'll be right here on 3 Wide TV. Now, before we go back, green pace car lights have turned off, but do want to kind of turn my attention over to the chat, because we haven't mentioned the chat here tonight. We got Garrett Gleason in the chat, Tana Himmelman, Kelsey Jalowski rooting on Peter Serto. I believe we also had Peter John Serto in the chat. Stay Tuned Sports saying good luck drivers, actually saying good luck drivers. Andrew Himmelman in the chat as well. Now, Andrew, typically in the field in the Simbox Truck Series, but not in the field here tonight. Got word yesterday that he was going to his grandparents for the weekend. So, Andrew, hopefully you have a good time. Sit back, relax. Would be curious to hear a little bit of your commentary on the race tonight as it goes on. And for everyone, big shout out. We're already up to 12 likes. I think that might be a new record at this point in the race. So make sure to keep hitting that thumbs up button. We really do appreciate it. Jason Freeman saying, number 6 driving way too hard that early. I think they were all racing hard early. But speaking of racing hard, Jason Gracias, the number 1 machine on the loud pedal, he picked up the win last night in the Taz Racing Customs Super Speedway Series. He's going to jump up to the front here, Drew, with a early restart there to get around Mike Tellier.
Yeah, a kind of a little bit of a surprise there for that. I mean, I guess timing and scoring number 1, number 98, schemed truck for Jason Gracias. Didn't really expect, obviously we've seen how quick can be in that truck, but the 14 into the outside wall hard. I don't think that's going to bring out a caution, but I think that 14 is done for the night. And I didn't quite catch what happened. Did he just get loose off of 4 there, Peter?
Well, we'll go back and see exactly what happened to Price here. Was in 3rd spot, just got loose and turned it up into the wall, and that is heavy, heavy contact. That number 14 Silverado, it is day done. Right front suspension toast, engine toast, and trying to kill some mosquitoes with engine smoking out the back. Doug Milliner there in the number 6 machine might have also had a little bit of a moment. We'll see if we can go back and see what happened to Milliner up there at the top of the screen. He just got loose and he went sliding through the grass. So the Viagra cart having a little bit of difficulty keeping it up on the racetrack here tonight, but he's going to get back up out there onto the racetrack right now, and we go back live up at the front of the field as Jason Gracias continues to lead over Mike Floppy Tellier, and Ben Mashburn now riding in the 3rd position.
Yeah, and I would like to point out to the folks watching, unlike last weekend, this is now in what is normal for the Simbox Truck Series. No fast repairs tonight, so when you see a guy with engine smoke rolling out from under that hood, very, very likely that they're going to go at the very least multiple laps down, and it's basically going to remove them from competition. So unfortunate for that number 14, the 77, and those other guys involved early on in this race here at Chicagoland. But Jason Gracias up front doing a really good job here, Peter, of holding these guys off. And the 24 now trying to make that high lane work, potentially getting around that, the number 97. I think that as this track rubbers in, right, if this works how iRacing wants it to work, I think it's going to take time to get that high lane rubbered up and make that a viable option. But then I think once it becomes a viable option, I think you're going to see a lot of guys migrate up there and it become the preferred lane fairly quickly. And we're seeing that number 97 trying to work that high lane right now, and it's just not quite there yet. But I think before the end of this race, we're going to see guys be able to make that high lane work, as now riding on board with that number 24 truck of Ben Mashburn. He's ultimately been the loser kind of in this deal, as he was up in the top 5 and it is now fallen out of the top 5 as these guys have tried to figure out what they need to do to make these trucks quick. But don't look, too far back. That number 07 Ben Izenga, so quick the past few races. He is closing in on that number 1/98 truck of Jason Gracias with David Harvey in tow. And now Harvey's making a move down the backstretch going into turn 3. Can he make it stick? And can Izinga roll that high lane? We shall see, as this battling, Peter's kind of closed this whole group of about 6 or 7 trucks all together and has kind of created another little pack racing, which I didn't think we would see tonight.
Yeah, I really had to say the same thing. I mean, I know we're kind of early on in the run as we ride on board with our current race leader, the number 1 of Jason Gracias. But I too am surprised with the way this race has gone so far. With the amount of pack racing, and also it was fun to see some of those different lines being run at least early in the run. But it seems like for right now, a lot of these drivers gravitating to the bottom side of the racetrack, including the 00 right here of David Harvey. He might have clipped the apron there on entry, pushed up the racetrack quite severely. That's going to stack him up behind him as we now go 2x2x2, almost 3 wide, going off into turn number 3. Here comes Chris Darling on the inside in the number 47 machine, right down there on that yellow line. Now Harvey on the top side. They all of a sudden, look at that, almost like those pendulums that you see. 2 cars washed up, 2 cars cut back down to the bottom, and here comes Harvey once again for second.
Yeah, I was surprised by Mitchell Adams kind of putting it 3 wide. I know that the championship is in essence wrapped up, but you don't want to put yourself in a position to be the guy that wins the championship that finishes in 28th position. But, I mean, ultimately you're out there to race, right? And that's what that 49 truck is doing. This is what Jason Gracias wants to see, right? Is to see these guys stack each other up, hold each other up so he can try to get away from them. As now Chris Darling has taken over that second position with that number 00 behind him in the 24 following. And man, these guys have just changed positions so quickly. That 07 truck was in second place, it seems like a lap and a half ago, and now he's just barely hanging on now outside of the top 5. So if you get caught in that high lane, I think it can really, really mess you up. Or, in the case, I think, of Izenga, he wasn't even in the high lane. It was the 00 not being able to roll that bottom lane, and that checked up that whole inside groove, and then that kind of really cost the 07, as now he has fallen back to, I believe, 8th position. And don't look now, but James Zarello, he doesn't care if this championship might be wrapped up. He's going to try to get up there and compete for this victory, as is JT Poole. So much pace from that 26 truck in the last few races, Peter, and those guys are racing hard.
Yeah, they are definitely racing very hard right there for about the 5th position. Of course, we're probably not all too many laps away from the first pit stop of the night. Of course, they do run a reduced fuel tank here in the Simbox Truck Series, the National Sim Racing Association, as you get a good look of all the trucks racing past the turn number 2 cam. As we go 3 wide, Lorello on the bottom, JT Poole in the middle, Harvey on the top side. As they work their way coming out of turn number 4, they throw contact, and Harvey goes up on 2 wheels. Izenga goes around with him, and caution flag is gonna wave here at Chicagoland. Man, they were looking so good there 3 wide. There's 3 wide on entry to the corner. Lorello picking up the spot. We'll slow this one down because I think the initial contact is between the 07 and the 26 here, Drew. We caught this at just the right time. Looks like the 26 might have been coming down. There's the contact. I don't know if he realized he was still in the middle of 3 wide, and wrong spot there for Harvey. Harvey almost going up and over. Heavy contact with the outside wall. Harvey's night's done. Same thing with Izenga.
Yeah, just when you're in the middle of 3 wide, the margin of error is essentially 0. And I think that 26 just didn't quite take the expected path on exit and kept it a little bit lower than maybe the 00 was expecting, or maybe just didn't quite anticipate it correctly. And unfortunately hooked that 07 into the 00, and both of those drivers' nights are ruined. And yeah, you talked about that 00. I thought he was going to go over there once that contact was made, and now he's doing some acrobatics getting onto pit road, is Dave Harvey. But I really think that it is unlikely that he is able to continue. Looking at Mitchell Adams now as well, as this will shake up the field a little bit. Those were 2 incredibly quick trucks, and removing those guys from competition will change things. As Chris Darling, I believe he earned a kazoo there, Peter, because I think he nailed that pit stop and potentially moved up into the race lead, though I think Mitchell beat him out first for that lead, and that will put that number 47 truck into second position.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. We'll see if now it's gonna pop up here on the screen. Well, you know what? We'll just hide it so it doesn't pop up there on the screen for everyone to see. But let's see if we can bring out the old kazoo for that number 47 machine. It might be the last time we get to do the kazoo this season. So let's see if we can just get a quick word with the driver of the number 47 machine while we give him a kazoo. I'm sure he'd appreciate that, you know. All right, Chris Darling here in the 3Y TV booth. This is Peter Short. Man, that was a good pit stop. Such a good pit stop that we're going to give you a kazoo right here on live TV.
Hey, I appreciate that one.
Well, a really good stop there for you in the number 47 machine. We've seen a couple of different grooves out there being used by drivers. Seems like that low line, however, is still being favored. What are your thoughts about how that truck's handling?
Handle's pretty good. It's pretty much glued to the track. I don't know if any other lanes are going to really play into this. I mean, you can hold a guy off in the middle, but I don't think you're going to make a pass up there, so you really got to kind of sneak under somebody.
Yeah, it definitely is going to be a little bit difficult to make the pass if that tie line doesn't start to come in. This is a racetrack where you can save tires, and we were seeing some drivers kind of drop back. Some drivers work their way forward. What was kind of the tire wear situation under that first little bit of a run there?
It was decent. I kind of wanted to run them to their max because I wanted to see what was going to happen, but I could tell like guys like Mitchell and James, they're going to be right up here because they're saving tires right from the start. So it's going to be a factor. We're just going to have to manage it all night.
All right. Well, we'll let you get back to it behind that brand new iRacing pace car. Yes, there's no manufacturer, so I'm just going to call it the iRacing pace car because iRacing made up some fictitious pace car. But have a good time out there, Chris. Best of luck here going back green.
Thanks, guys.
All right, well, we'll let him get back to his team in that number 47 machine. But here, Drew, new pace car, one of the other new additions to the iRacing service. And iRacing decided to combine a Kia with a Camry, with an Audi, with, I don't know, some other things. And it looks pretty funky. I'm not the biggest fan of the pace car. What about you?
We were talking about this last week, right? With the old like 05 Mustang pace car that was a late model vehicle, bordering on classic, depending on how you define classic. It's kind of a mix between an Audi and like one of the newer Fusions to me, with a hint of Kia Stinger in there as well. I mean, it's cool. I just wish they could have licensed, I don't know, a real car. But I think it's neat to have something that belongs basically in this decade at least. So that's nice. But what's even nicer is we are going back to green as Mitchell Adams leads the field to the green flag. A little bit of a stack up though through the middle of the pack, but guys towards the tail end of the field do a really good job of not running into each other. But what is James Zarello going to do? You know, I mean, he has really nothing to lose. And quite frankly, neither does the 49, but I expect just pure aggression from this number 9 truck, as he wants to get out there and show everybody that I don't care what's going on with this championship. I want to get out there and grab this victory. And he is right on the tailgate of Mitchell Adams going into turn 3 with the number 97 of Boppy Tellier. Gets a little low on entry, doesn't quite nail that apex, shoves that number 24 truck up there about a groove and a half out of where he wants to be. But that 97 might just clear him, doesn't quite clear him going into turn 1, but he should be able to now. As that high lane, you just get a little bit better entry than those guys on that outside lane. And if you can clear him, you can just kind of basically force that truck up there. Looking at Jamar Dumas, he has that number 50 and the number 84 behind him. But a good run thus far from Jamar there, Peter. And he likes to see those guys battling behind him.
Yeah, that number 28 machine, that was actually while I was focusing on him. I know Jamar probably hasn't quite had the season he was hoping for, as the 97 and the 47 go toe-to-toe with one another right in front of him. And let's see if we can get jump on board here, because I think that little battle between the 47 and the 97 allowed Dumas here to get a run underneath the 24 of Mashburn. But like going back to my point, I don't think it's been the season that Dumas was hoping for here in the Simbox Truck Series. I'm sure he's hoping to turn things around next season in the Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series right here on 3Wide TV. But what a great way it would be for him to round out the series with a top 5 and maybe do a little bit better, even maybe walk away with a podium as he tries to close in on the back of Tellier's number 97 Chevrolet. There is Ben Mashburn, who's also having a really strong run here tonight. Back behind them, though, there's Jason Gracias. We saw Gracias lead 15 laps here tonight. So far, he has led the most laps in the race. TJ Buck back behind him in the 84 machine. The Captain Crunch truck race winner this season. Philip Scott, the 44 machine, and Robert Dudley in the number 15, rounding out your top 10 right now with JT Poole, Bill Edwards, Adam Dama back there in the Army Esports racing machine as well. The 50 of Bill Edwards there just caught the wall, just narrowing up the right side of the truck. We'll go on board here with the number 50 of Edwards. And one thing about this track that a lot of people don't realize, Drew, is the fact that the backstretch is curved. It's not straight. Chicagoland Speedway really, in my opinion, the only real racetrack in NASCAR that I can think of that doesn't really have a back straight. You can kind of see that curvature to it, and if you're not paying attention, sometimes it can catch you out, and we've seen that a couple times here tonight.
Yeah, that it tightens that entry into turn 3, if anything, because you never completely let the wheel out, right? You just have a little bit of input going through that backstretch. So I think it just narrows your turn-in point where you need to be on the track specifically. It just narrows that down a little bit. It just makes the entry to 3 just a little bit tighter and can cause you to check up if you're just not all the way out towards that wall. I think if anything, it really helps that bottom lane through 3 and 4 versus I think that higher lane maybe a little bit better through 1 and 2 based on what we've seen tonight. But what we have seen, at least this run, is that number 49 truck just doing a really fantastic job out front. But James Zarello just been slowly cutting his way through the pack. And he has worked his way up to second. Floppy Tellier worked his way up to third. And Jason Gracias has been slowly kind of making his way up there as he didn't really have the pit stop that he wanted as he's trying to work that number 98 truck to the outside of Chris Darling, not able to make it work. But we're kind of seeing that proverbial cream rise to the top here, Peter, as so many of these guys that we've seen up front for so much of this season have worked their way up here towards the front of Chicagoland.
Yeah, we're closing in on the quarter race distance here tonight. Hopefully everyone's enjoying the live action here, the last race of the season here in the National Sim Racing Association Simbox Truck Series. And of course, folks, a big shout out to our series sponsor, Simbox. There's a link in the description of the video. If you haven't clicked on the link all season, tonight is the time to do it. Like them on Facebook. Pick up one of those Simbox button boxes and really thank them for sponsoring the truck series all season long. And of course, Doug Neal and the number 77 machine having some early troubles here tonight. Unfortunately, Doug Neal, 29 laps down, still sitting on pit road. We have Dave Harvey, Ben Izenga, Jeff Price, Ben Adams, and Doug Neal all currently either in the garage or sitting on pit road getting damage repaired. So tough break for them. Now the 971 of Nathan Maurer typically in the field as well, sporting Simbox on the hood, also not in tonight's race, as we see a little bit of side-by-side between Mashburn there and Jason Gracias back behind. They go toe-to-toe with one another. We're also seeing some side-by-side a little bit further back between JT Poole, the winner from Bristol a couple weeks ago here in the Simbox Truck Series, and Robert Dudley, the number 15 machine, battling it out just for the 10th position. JT just took that spot. He now sits in the last spot inside the top 10. Meanwhile, up towards the front of the field, we got a side-by-side battle for third. Chris Darling, Mike Floppy Tellier going side-by-side through the corner. Dumas and Mashburn also going side-by-side. So we're starting to see some good passing opportunities start to open up here on the racetrack as we are now just about 15 laps or so into this stint, going down on the front stretch right here on the bottom of the racetrack. You see all of those drivers, they're cutting onto the apron. And Drew, that's a strategy that we often see these drivers just try to save just a little bit of time, as you see the 44, Philip Scott and Jamar Dumas, go really close to one another through 1 and 2.
Yeah, some tight battles throughout the field as we got a battle for the race lead heating up. We have a battle for 8th position. And looking back up front, that number 9 truck, James Zarello, closing on Mitchell Adams, just trying to figure out a way to show the nose on that number 9 truck on our race leader right now. As, these last few laps, just, a couple tenths quicker each lap has been James Zarello, as right there that last time by a tenth quicker as well. But it's just so hard to set up a pass here at Chicagoland. If that guy in front of you isn't, if he doesn't have a flaw to his approach to these corners, it can just be really hard to get your nose really in a viable position to try to make that pass. If that guy in front of you is just nailing his markers, and that's what we're seeing right now. That number 9 a little bit quicker, but not able to do anything now. Ben Mashburn in that number 40, in that number 24 truck racing Philip Scott in that 44 truck. And that is a battle, I believe, for the 6th position. So these drivers, kind of battling their way to go up there and compete for a top 5, but the number 24 truck not quite able to make that stick. And it's 2 spots that he's going to lose with the number 26 truck, making a move to his inside to put him back another spot there.
Yeah, here comes JT Poole trying to pick up that spot. Looks like he's going to duck back in line for right now, but Mashburn here really struggling in the middle stage of this run. We think they have about 35 to 40 laps on a tank of fuel here tonight. Of course, the National Sim Racing Association does run a smaller fuel tank than what you usually see in these trucks, so that is the reason why we often see a lot more pit stops under green flag conditions, and we know that these Truck Series drivers, they know how to race around one another. We've seen some spectacular racing this season. Really, they've been so impressive, Drew, with all of the racing that we have seen. It's been an absolute joy for us up here in the 3Y TV booth to sit back, relax, and have a lot of fun, to bring these races to everyone who's watching in the chat. And speaking of the chat, Jeff Price, driver of the number 14 machine. Jeff, you had a hot rod here tonight. A really tough break there, just snapping out from underneath you out of turn number 4. As you see that 24 lose another 2 spots. Now back all the way to the 12th position. Up at the front, you're not missing anything. Dana Himmelman saying, we're up to 15 likes. That's absolutely awesome, folks. Just keep hitting the likes, the like button. Another thing, is there is a Facebook link. You can go to 3Y TV on Facebook. We try and post our stream links there. Get those stream links shared out to different people. There's a lot of people, maybe in your family, a lot of people that don't know what sim racing is all about. Well, why don't you introduce them to what we have to offer here on 3Y TV and, put on the TV, chill, and enjoy some side-by-side racing action when these drivers they decide to give you some side-by-side action. Right now, no side-by-side action happening up at the front. The battle for, I believe, the 4th position, the 3rd position is heating up a little bit. Battle for 5th position back behind them, also relatively tight between Jason Gracias there and Philip Scott in the 44 National Ninja League machine. Of course, Philip Scott going to be on the next season of American Ninja Warrior. Hopefully he's able to get through and qualify for nationals. He has done that before, making it to the finals, and hopefully he can do it once again right there in that number 44 machine. Back behind them, I know we got Bill Edwards fans in the chat. There is Bill, the S2R Chevrolet, running in the 9th spot. We saw him have a little bit of a excursion with the outside retaining wall down the backstretch. He's running right behind JT Poole, but doesn't quite seem like a Bill Edwards kind of night, but it's still relatively early as we still close in on the halfway distance tonight.
Yeah, Bill not quite having the pace that we've seen quite a few times, especially on these 1.5 mile ovals, though that number 50 did start in 24th position, I believe. Yeah, 24th. So, a top 10 is certainly a good run given that starting position. But one guy I'm really keeping my eye on is that number 44 truck. He is really making some noise is Philip Scott, as they are going side by side with that 97, the 44, the number 1/98 truck, depending on what screen you're looking at. All of those guys have managed to pass our pole sitter, Mike Taylor, and I was really expecting that number 97 to get up there and battle for that race lead, but it just seems that since the start of this race, now on lap 50, in those 50 laps, the 97 may be losing a little bit of handling on that truck. Meanwhile, that 44 is really coming around, and he is showing quite a bit of pace.
Yeah, we'll see if we can, ride on board with them here, right behind Jason Gracias. And you see Gracias actually is also closing in on the back bumper of Chris Darling. So maybe Gracias and Philip Scott are both on a little bit of a move up towards the front. That number 47 Camping World machine fresh out of the MaxGrafix.co paint booth. And whoa, here comes Philip Scott. Looks like he's coming down pit road. Same thing with Gracias. Now they have to get down to the stripe. It's not an easy stripe to get down to pit road speed. Looks like these two were able to do so, but that's only 26 laps, Drew. That's a little bit earlier than I was expecting, but let's see if that drags down some of our race leaders, including Mitchell Adams and James Zarello. We'll keep our eyes on them as they go onto or go past pit lane this time by.
Yeah, it certainly will be interesting to see how these other drivers respond. We're seeing right now how our race leaders are responding. They are coming down the very next lap. But if I'm one of those guys that maybe doesn't have race-winning pace, I'm going to try to stretch this thing out and hope that there's a caution. If I'm a guy like Doug Milner, if I'm a guy like Jeffrey Johnson Jr., or Bill Edwards, right? I think that this is not a bad strategy from that number 50 truck. I don't think he has displayed, at least up until now, the pace of those front running guys. And so doing something a little bit different, these guys have a ton of fuel on board. And when he comes down pit road, those guys will have, I said that. He stayed out one extra lap. I don't think I would have done that necessarily. I think if you're going to pit early, you pit as soon as you can in response to those other guys. But I'm interested to see if somebody does that. If somebody else tries to offset this strategy by just staying out a little bit longer and then trying to maximize their fresh tires when everyone else has been out there for 10, 15 laps, because I'm sure, Peter, that these guys can go 40 laps on fuel. And I'm kind of surprised that we're not seeing more guys try to stretch it that way.
Well, we're getting word in the chat from Jeff Price, who started tonight but is out of the race truck, unfortunately. He's saying that they can only go about 27 to 28 laps here tonight. So that is about what we saw there on that stint. So we'll have to keep that in the back of our mind, that they can go 27 or 28 laps. Now, I don't know how that's going to put them into a window or not towards the end of this race, but we are looking at the driver who leapfrogged Mitchell Adams. That's right. James Zarello on pit road had a slightly quicker pit stop and was able to get to the front of the field, as things have now basically all cycled throughout the field here tonight. Lorello leads Adams, Mashburn up to third with his early pit stop. Then Jason Gracias, JT Poole in the fifth spot right now. Chris Darling dropped back to sixth. Not sure if he had any issues on pit road or not in the 47 machine. There he is, running right behind Matt Vanderkoy in the Milwaukee Brewers, number 60. Vanderkoy having a big wiggle out the back of that Ford F-150, but Darling got around him. That wasn't for position. I'm trying to see if we have any drivers with any obvious pit road speeding penalties. And folks, we do. One driver we were actually just recently talking about, Philip Scott, the number 44 machine here, Drew. There he is, speeding on pit road, currently being scored down in the 19th position. And by my numbers, currently being scored one lap down as well. Luckily, first car one lap down at this present moment in time, although Peter Serto in the Jansen machine possibly about to fall a lap down right there in that number 32. Looks like some right front damage on that race car, as we have had a pass for the race lead while we were looking at that, because Mitchell Adams has reasserted himself as your race leader. got around the number 9 of Zarello. So the 49, who is your series champion, folks. That 49 machine, Mitchell Adams, no one can touch him here tonight. He will walk away with back-to-back Simbox Truck Series crowns back up to the point. And how awesome would it be, Drew, to not only pick up the championship, but also take home a win here in the final race of the year?
I don't think there's any other way that you would want to do it, quite frankly, right? Like if you're going to take that championship, you want to emphatically, stake your claim. And there's no better way to do it than by grabbing that checkered flag and winning that final race, and doing it against your kind of primary championship rival throughout the season, over that number 9 of James Zarello and Bill Edwards, who's running in 8th position. That would just be a kind of a picture perfect ending for that number 49 truck. But there's still a bunch of laps to go here, Peter, as we are just basically coming to 101 laps to go is that number 49 truck. So he certainly put himself in a good position, but there's a lot of time left. And we saw with that 44 truck, it takes one little mistake getting on and off pit road to really throw a wrench in your plans. And from what we've seen, we got about 3 to 4 more pit stops for these guys, depending on how long they can stretch the fuel. So it's going to be interesting to see, as that number 9, not satisfied with the current running order, he's going to take it low through 3 and 4 and down the front stretch. And will he be able to lead this lap? He does by 0.015 seconds. James Zarello will claim that race lead, but Mitchell Adams not satisfied. He's going to be fighting back there on that high lane, and now is about the point in the race, Peter, that I'm expecting to see that high lane come in, if it's going to come in.
Yeah.
And the 49 able to make that high lane work and kind of cross back underneath him through 3 and 4.
Yeah, and here comes Zarello. Zarello's going to try and give him a taste of his own medicine, but Adams slams the door there going through the tri-oval. But here comes Zarello. Can he show a nose? No, he can't. He's going to stay in line for another lap, but some good side-by-side racing right at the front of the field. They have a 2.5-second advantage or so over Jason Gracias. JT Poole's got himself up into 4th. Great job there by JT on that pit stop to elevate himself in front of Christopher Darling. He was actually a full second quicker than Chris Darling on pit road in the 26 machine. So that crew got him on and off pit road in a hurry. I'm just looking up and down at the pit road times that I have on my live timing and scoring. Jamar Dumas, Mitchell Adams, Barry Knapp, the big standouts of drivers who might have missed their pit stall just a little bit. Same thing with Peter Serto and the Jansen machine. Philip Scott, Ray Heilig, Matt Vander Kooi, and it appears maybe even Jordan Schepler in the number 13 machine all had some type of pit road issue, whether that's missing their pit stall, getting some damage repaired, or a pit road speeding penalty. I believe Schepler's was just getting a little bit extra damage fixed, but on the situations for Philip Scott, Ray Heilig, and Matt Vander Kooi, definite speeding penalties for all of those 3 drivers, and that's going to put them in a little bit of a hole, because we have now been caution-free for about the last 40 or so laps here, Drew, and with the field spread out the way it is, it kind of has a little bit of a green flag vibe to it here. We'll see if we can keep that going here in the Simbox Truck Series.
Well, if I said it, I know it would be quickly a yellow would be displayed, as my commentator's curse certainly has been healthy this season. But James Zarello, Mitchell Adams, they're doing a really good job of establishing themselves as the 2 quickest guys out there. I was kind of expecting the number 1/98 truck to get up there and compete, and then a guy that didn't have a good pit stop at all, Mike Tellier, our pole sitter, he was well inside the top 10 pre-pit stop, now running in 11th position. So not a great exchange on and off pit road situation for that number 97 truck, as now he's back up into the top 10. Is the number 24, Ben Nashburn, kind of had that free fall right after that restart, was running well inside the top 5, and then kind of shook him way down the order there. But a guy who's done a fantastic job we're looking at right now is Jeffrey Johnson Jr., one of those guys that typically doesn't qualify, yet made the chase, has had some good pace, and is now currently running in 11th position.
Yeah, and he's knocking on the door of that top 10 as well, with Tellier not all too far in front of him. In front of Mike Tellier, you have TJ Buck and the number 15 here of Robert Dudley. Those two trucks battling it out with one another for this position. Right now, it looks like that Captain Crunch 84 machine just trying to jump up to the high side. He's going to slot back in line for right now. Meanwhile, right up at the front of the field, Zarello's in a similar position, trying to get around the 49 of Adams once again. They've put about another second on the number 1 of Gracias. Now 3.6 seconds between the 49 and the number 1 in third. JT Poole actually closing in on the third place number 1 machine of Gracias. Just a little bit lap after lap. Bill Edwards also turning pretty good lap times in the number 50 machine, but looking at just the lap times over the last 5 laps, these front two have been pulling away from the field. 92 laps to go here at Chicagoland. We will be halfway in 12 laps from now. We'll see those cross flags, and we'll be 1 lap closer to the end of the 2020-2021 NSRA Simbox Truck Series here on 3 Wide TV. And I gotta say, folks, if you've been with us a lot this season, you will have seen a lot of these two going toe-to-toe. And once again, in the final race of the year, Adams v. Zarello, it's going to be a fun and exciting race as Zarello gets his nose to the inside, not able to hook that bottom side of the racetrack. Gonna slide back up behind him. Ben Adams in the chat saying, make sure y'all listen to the Stay Tuned Sports podcast, available on iTunes, Spotify, and Podbeam. Jim is the NSRA sponsor for next season, so show him support. Yeah, that's very true. Stay Tuned Sports getting on board for the series sponsor. We got to give them a huge shout out. Tana Himmelman saying, I haven't listened to this week's Stay Tuned Sports podcast, but I will. I'm hoping the more I listen, the better my fantasy football team next year will be. Jimbo, I need lots of NFL info. Don't we all? I think we all need a little bit of help with our fantasy teams. So many people get so engrossed in it, Drew, and it's a lot of fun to pick up any given NFL game on Sunday and kind of have a little bit invested in each and every one, whether it's you want a certain defense to do poorly or a special teams to do well, or you just want a wide receiver to get 700 yards of receiving yards. You just never really know when it comes to fantasy sports, and it is really cool. Maybe I've always wondered if we could ever get fantasy sports involved in something like sim racing. I think it would be a great project for someone like Dan Lisa, the group of people who put together the scoring standings package that NSRA uses to just kind of have something that is an additional level of fan interaction and driver interactions where you would be able to pick and choose going into your week who you want to use for that particular week to score some points towards the end of the season tally. I think it'd be a lot of fun, and it would definitely engross people watching at home with sim racing just a little bit more as you continue to watch this battle. It continues to stay red hot here, Drew, but at least for right now, as we close in on the halfway mark, the 49 of Adams has led 44 of the first 73 laps.
Yeah, Mitchell's done a fantastic job out front, and Zarello not losing touch with him, just not able to get back out front. We saw that little exchange there just a few laps ago, but not able to kind of, keep that fight going. Is that number 9? He's close. Is he going to be able to show his nose on entry? He will. It's going to be really hard to make work, though. Will that number 9? Is that 49 trying to use that high lane to his advantage, roll the top? He will give that position, in fact, though, to that number 9 of James Zarello. And we'll see, can Zarello start to extend this? Both of these guys, despite their close running, have put about a second on the third place truck, that number 1/98 truck of Jason Gracias in about the last 10-15 laps or so. So some good running, some good pace for those two guys. But sometimes it's kind of easier to run somebody down than to find your own rhythm and run away from them. Typically, that hasn't been an issue for that number 9 of James Zarello, but it can be kind of hard to find that rhythm that you had prior to that little bit of a battle, as I believe pit stop starting to happen again here, Peter, is the number 1/98 truck of Jason Gracias on pit road.
Yeah, Gracias is on pit road, and I was just kind of doing the math while you were talking. He's going to be in the situation where he needs to make 3 consecutive 28-lap runs from right now to get to the end. Now, we think that they are in that window, as looks like the number 6 machine. Oh, that's the 28 machine. There's the number 6 machine of Doug Miller also coming down to his pit box. We'll wait and see for our race leaders when they come down. Looks like Zarello going to go across the stripe here. Now, if they can make it to 81 laps to go, so that's just about a lap and a half from right now. If they can make it to 81 to go, then they only need to do 27 lap runs. What I'm seeing right now is JT Poole, Jamar Dumas, Robert Dudley, all on pit road this time. They're kind of getting into that period where they're going to need to run 27, 28 laps. But here comes the number 9 machine of Zarello, and Zarello really struggling to get it down to pit road in that number 9 truck. And this is a 26 lap stint here, Drew. So if he can do 26 laps times 3, that's only 78 laps. He would be 4 laps short. So I think surely there's some drivers, possibly like Bill Edwards in the number 50. He's still out there on the racetrack. He might be playing the long game here. How many laps extra can he go on fuel? Right now he's done 25.6. It will be 26 this time by. But maybe the 50 of Edwards is, thinking about, let's try and stretch this out, because he's going to go across the stripe here. That's he will go 27 laps. 81 laps to go. So we now know that if Bill Edwards can continue to run the pace that he's running and save the fuel that he's been saving, he should be able to make it from here on only 2 more stops. But Zarello and Adams, if they run 2 26-lap stints in a row, they're going to have to come down for a splash of fuel most likely. So we might see the dynamic of the race shift here as, whoa, Edwards cut down right in front of the number 31 machine, Ray Heilig there. Really, really tight getting to pit road. But Bill Edwards here might be just playing the long game here, Drew, and that might work out in his advantage if we continue to go caution-free.
Yeah, Peter, I certainly like the position that number 50 truck's putting himself in right now by staying out those couple extra laps, as Mitchell Adams now trying to reclaim that race lead from James Zarello. I think he's going to be able to roll that bottom through 3 and 4. He will, and be able to reclaim it. And then, we're going to see that number 49 truck try to kind of do what he did that last run. Not really substantially quicker than that number 9, but just able to maintain that race lead and not allow that number 9 to make a move. But the 49 maybe clipped the apron a little bit through 1 and 2. A really good recovery, though, despite that little bit of a bobble from that 49 truck. But just that slightest mistake is going to be the type of thing that allows James Zarello to come back and take the fight to him. And that's the kind of stuff that you can't do late in that final run. If you clip that apron, you're going to be in a world of hurt if you're trying to keep that guy behind you in your rearview mirror.
Yeah, we've now reached the halfway mark here in tonight's 240-mile race around the Chicagoland Speedway. Of course, Chicagoland not on the NASCAR schedule this year. I don't know what NASCAR is thinking, leaving this racetrack off of the schedule. But they have indeed left it off. We'll see whether or not that changes. Meanwhile, we go a little bit further back. This is the battle for the 5th position between Jamar Dumas and Chris Darling. These two have continued to battle themselves between themselves over the last, I'd say, 15, 20 laps. Good job by Dumas. We were talking a little bit earlier about how he probably hasn't had the season he wanted to, but a good finish here tonight would give him some momentum going into the Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series next season. Pit road speeding penalties. The only driver under this particular round of pit stops, possibly Adam Dama in the Army Esports Racing Machine. He had a lengthy pit stop, 19.9 seconds, and at the same time, his pit road time ended up being 13 seconds longer than most of the people around him. So Adam Dama here really having a tough pit sequence, and I believe he now falls 1 lap down. We're down to now just 15 trucks on the lead lap. Up at the front, James Zarello has gotten to the race lead once again while we were watching that one. Let's watching a little bit further back. Let's see if we can figure out how the number 9 machine was able to get past the 49 machine, because I'll tell you what, these two are going to be trading spots, I think, for the remainder of this race. At least that's if the past 30, 40 laps have been any indication, but Zarello was able to get that good run through 1 and 2, drop to the low side through 3 and 4, and just pull up in front of the number 49 machine. But back live, things have changed again. Just like that. Now we have to go back. We have to dial back the tape and figure out how Mitchell Adams got to the race lead. Because I was saying it there while we were watching that last replay. We're going to be watching them trade spots. Well, things happened. Of course, I'm going to play this replay. This was about a lap and a half ago, 2 laps ago now, with Adams getting a good run coming out of turn number 1 and 2. But by the time we come back live, I'm going to have to be probably dialing up the tape to figure out how 9 got past the 49. But there you saw Adams get underneath there on turn number 3, and he was able to get to the race lead. And folks, I don't have to dial back the tape. We're back live. Mitchell Adams still leading now, 49 laps led for the number 49 machine. James Zarello still has only led 8 laps tonight, Drew, which seems a little bit low, but he's led multiple times in that S2R Chevy Silverado. Probably just think about leading the last lap. If you weren't here last night, the Taz Racing Customs Super Speedway Series, Jason Gracias, he only led 1 lap in his race machine, the last lap, the one that matters the most. And I'm sure that is what Zarello has on his mind here over the closing laps. But Drew, things kind of calmed down up at the front, at least for right now, but things not calming down back behind him. This is the battle for third right now. Gracias has it, but JT Poole wants it. JT Poole really been on a surge since getting that win at Bristol.
Yeah, the number 26 truck has been running down that number 98/1 in front of him, and I would not be surprised to see JT get up there and get by that number 98 schemed vehicle. But it's like we've seen up front. It's one thing to be able to catch the guy and to have the same amount of pace as him. It's another thing to be able to get up there and make that move stick. That's the one thing I think I've learned about that battle up front between Zarello and Adams is that Zarello has the pace to get to the lead, but I think that 49 has the pace to keep the race lead for longer periods of time. So kind of how you mentioned, I think that number 9, what he's going to have to do, if this thing goes green till the end and those guys have continued to position themselves to battle for that race win, he's going to have to make a move with a lap or 2 to go, because I just am not convinced that 9 has the pace to keep that 49 behind him. But what we've seen out of this 98 and the number 26 that we're looking at now is the 26 has had the pace to catch Jason Gracias, but JT Poole hasn't been able to figure out a way around that truck, because as you know, Peter, those are such different things, especially at a track that can be difficult to pass at, like Chicagoland. And it's not even once you're on the inside of that truck, it's setting up that truck in front of you to position your vehicle to where you are in a position to attempt to pass going into the corner, as Jason Gracias maybe struggled just a little bit through 3 and 4 there. Will JT Poole be able to make a move? He's going to go high. The number 98 blocks just a little bit. And you saw right there, the 98 made a slight mistake, but the 26 wasn't able to capitalize on it. And it can be several more laps before you're able to get another opportunity like that. If you are able to get that opportunity, it can be so difficult. That is almost one of the art forms of racing, is being able to set up a pass for the guy in front of you to where they can't defend it, right? Figure out what they're doing versus what you're doing and how you can set them up to be able to attempt that pass. Is now the 26 going to look to the inside into turn 1, just not quite there, and that's really going to kill his apex speed and his center off speed. JT Poole, it's really going to compromise that when you pinch that truck down, Peter. And this is just a fascinating display of that kind of battle. But back up front, number 9, James Zarello retaking that race lead from Mitchell Adams. And now, can that 9 hold on to it? Because that's what he has struggled with so much tonight. Not getting to the race lead, but being able to hold on to it, Pete.
Yeah, absolutely. Not the first time, like you said, that we've seen the number 9 machine up front as we work lap number 94 of 160, but Zarello really wants to hold on to that lead and really try and leg it out on Mitchell Adams. That's the one thing about when you are the leader that kind of takes some pressure away, Drew, is when you can start to grow that lead, maybe up to about a second and just have a little bit of a cushion where you know you're not going to have to feel the intense pressure of that truck right behind. But really, Adams is not letting Zarello get out front and pull away. That 49 staying lockstep behind him, using as much draft as possible. Meanwhile, we'll check in on the battle for the third position right here. Once again, it is still JT Poole running behind Jason Gracias. Now, folks, if you're keeping an eye on the top of the screen, the laps since pit numbers up there, you would note actually that Gracias pitted a couple of laps before your race leaders as well as JT Poole. So Poole has fresher tires than Gracias. Now, man, he might have clipped the apron there a little bit, got a little bit squirrely there through 1 and 2 in the 26 Zaps machine. But, that could be a factor here as this run goes on. Now you're also seeing the different strategies in play with a couple of these drivers, Drew, because if you watch when your leaders pick by here as JT finally getting to the inside of Gracias, had to go all the way down to the grass to get to the inside, but he's going to make it work here. But up at the top of the screen, Zarello Adams, 18 laps since pit. And then you have JT Poole, 19 laps since he pitted. Gracias, 21 laps since he pitted. So we know that JT Poole and Gracias, they have more fuel to save if they want to make it to the end of the race, unlike Zarello and Adams, who probably don't have quite as much to save. But then you have Bill Edwards. Edwards is silently running in the 7th position, just very, very, very quietly right there, all by his lonesome. As Jason Gracias, the number 1 machine, actually on pit road right now, 63 laps to go here, Drew. That's a long time. You're not going to be able to get 31 laps out of the fuel. So we know that Gracias has kind of made his bed. In fact, he'd only been out there for 22 laps, believe it or not, folks. So I don't think that's very good for all the Jason Gracias fans in the chat. I just don't see that strategy working out for him. But that will give JT Poole solidly the 3rd position. But going back to the Bill Edwards fans, he's in a good position. He doesn't have to save as much fuel. He has 2 laps more fuel than your race leaders do right now. And in fact, everyone in front of him is in a situation where they have 2 to 3 less laps of fuel than Bill. And I'm really liking where that number 50 is right now. He's 13 and a half seconds behind the race leader, but that's not a large amount of time if he can make it on 1 less stop than all those cars in front of him.
Nope, it certainly is not. Bill hasn't had the same pace as Zarello and Adams are two, kind of back and forth race leaders, but he's doing a great job positioning himself to figure out a way to possibly get the number 50 truck into victory lane. As now we're really seeing pit stops take full effect. And now you mentioned that 98 truck and how he's definitely not making it on fuel. I just noticed he was just really struggling here on the long run, so maybe he kind of felt boxed in by the way his tires were behaving, and that he had to short pit to be able to be relatively competitive. One guy who kind of has surprised me is James Zarello right here. Not only being able to establish his position as the leader over that 49, which he seemed to struggle with earlier in the race, but now really starting to extend that race lead to almost half a second now, which is about the biggest lead that we've seen between these two guys. So Zarello doing a great job. It's just how far can he stretch this fuel? Because right now he would have to go 28 laps. He needs to go, by my estimation, about 2 more laps before I think this is a really viable strategy.
Yeah, and how about that, folks? Chris Darling, able to get in his pit box. He's going to pick up a kazoo in that Camping World number 47 machine. Gets back on the loud pedal, drives on out. So not holding up to the Chris Darling meme here tonight. But he's in that window, 57 laps to go. So by my math, he's going to have to go about 2:28, 29 lap stints. That is really, really pushing it, Drew, on whether or not we think he will be able to make it to the end. Zarello goes across the line. There'll be 56 laps to go this lap. So he's in that realm of being, what would that be, 28 laps on fuel. If he comes down pit road this time, he'd have to make 2 28-lap stints. So we'll just keep our eyes on whether or not he pulls down this time. Looks like he's staying out. No, he's coming down. So, wow, he's going to have to make 2 28-lap stints. That last stint, only 26 laps again. That's the second time in a row, Drew, that we've seen 26-lap stints out of our race leader. So that's about the number that Zarello's getting in that S2R machine. Same thing with Mitchell Adams. Now we're going to have to wait to see if the number 50 of Bill Edwards, how long can Edwards stay out? How many more laps of fuel can he get in the number 50? He inherits the race lead. There he is right now. He's been out there on the racetrack for 24 and a half laps as he's down the back stretch. From the numbers we've been seeing out of Bill Edwards, he can go about another 2.5 if he's kind of staying where he has been in his fuel numbers. So we'll keep our eyes on him. Everyone around him has pitted. So looks like TJ Buck, the 84, he stayed out. Jeffrey Johnson Jr. also staying out. TJ Buck actually on the same strategy in the number 84 machine as the 50 of Edwards. There is the Captain Crunch Chevrolet. So it's going to be a fun one to see if we stay caution-free, whether or not strategy will come into play here in the final race of the season. Wouldn't be the first time we've seen some pit strategy play out here in the Simbox Truck Series races, Drew.
Certainly wouldn't be, but I really like the position that this 50's placed himself in. I just don't think Zarello and Adams have the fuel, fuel mileage, fuel window to be able to put themselves in a position to grab the victory. I really hope this goes green, just because, I really enjoy this aspect of racing. I think it's something that, quite frankly, is kind of sorely missing from contemporary modern NASCAR of today is this different fuel strategies that guys can try to do to get up there and grab a victory. I think some people might have this notion as we see the number 50 truck making his pit stop and again, really, really great position that he's put himself in. I think some people have this notion as though somehow a fuel mileage win is diminished. I think when you're a guy like Bill Edwards and you've shown your pace, that you're a guy who can get up there and race with the leaders. I think that if you do a little bit something different with your fuel mileage, your fuel windows, and you manage to grab a victory, I think in no way is that any less of a victory than if you go out there and you make a last lap pass for a win. I think a win is a win, and you got to do what you got to do. You got to be smart, play the strategy, and try to put yourself in a position to win. And that's exactly what we're seeing out of Bill Edwards, and that's one of those things that I enjoy most about racing is the guy that's able to think behind the wheel and figure out a strategy to grab a victory.
Yeah, so folks, keep your eyes on the lap since pit up at the top of the screen. That could be extremely important when the checkered flag does fall here tonight. Of course, not only will it be checkered flag falling on tonight's race, it'll be checkered flag falling on the Simbox Truck Series champion. And what a season it has been, going all the way back to the Simbox 250, which started off the season back at Daytona International Speedway. We've had some really stellar races this year. Las Vegas, of course, Texas Motor Speedway was a fantastic one. Talladega, back when Chris Darling was going sideways across the start-finish line to pick up his win. There's just been some really, really great races this season. I mean, Twin Ring Motegi, that was one where I think a lot of drivers didn't really know going into that race what it was going to have in it, but Twin Ring Motegi ended up being, at least in my opinion, one of the most enjoyable races of the season. Kentucky Speedway. Drew, both you and I went to Kentucky saying, you know what, we're not a big fan of Kentucky, but that race also, stellar race. Gotta say, definitely one where if you want to go back on this season and watch one race, I highlight Kentucky. Circle that one. That's a great one to watch, of course, right here on 3Wide TV. You can go watch it in our archives. Pocono was interesting. And once we got to the chase, Drew, people really threw off the gloves and really went to town. I mean, it's been a very exciting Simbox Truck Series chase. But it's been a great season all year long, and great to have a lot of different people feature in it. People like Ben Adams, Andrew Himmelman. I'm really curious to know what Ben Adams has been doing to Andrew Himmelman's wheel. Andrew Himmelman looks a little bit concerned in the chat, saying, oh boy. Ben saying, while Drew is at the grandparents, I made some modification to his wheel. Yeah, I don't know if I would be excited, Andrew, or not excited about that. You'll just have to wait until you get home, I guess. But we're watching this battle right now between the 9 and the 49 machine. Big question mark is whether these two are going to have enough fuel. Maybe Zarello's thinking of saving some fuel here because Adams has really been closing in on him. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure whether or not that's going to work out for either of these two drivers. They're closing in on Mike Floppy Tellier, the number 97 machine, as we're down to now just 11 trucks on the lead lap, Drew.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be incredibly difficult for those two drivers to be able to do it, especially if you're the race leader. I think if you're Mitchell Adams, you can save a little bit more, right? Like, you're in the draft, you can kind of judge what that 9's doing and kind of let off a little bit earlier, try to carry maybe a little more apex speed and just do a little bit more behind them. I think when you're the race leader, you feel obligated to try to defend your position and to push a little bit harder. And these guys certainly aren't saving. They're only extending over JT Poole, who was able to get by that number 98 truck. JT in third position, 7 seconds behind our front two. So, it's always great in your season finale to have those two guys or group of drivers that really did a fantastic job all season. In the case of what we're seeing now, these are the two guys, right? Race in, race out. Maybe not every race, but throughout the season, if you were to pressure somebody into naming two drivers that you thought were going to compete for the race win, it should be that number 9 and the number 49. And so it's great to see these guys in the season finale get up there and battle for this race win. But if one of these two guys is going to be able to save gas, I got to think it's that 49. He can back off a little bit without. He's not the one that's going to relinquish the lead if he's saving gas. It's just so hard to save fuel as the race leader. And Peter, I know we've certainly had our battles with fuel mileage at a certain track that might be shaped like a little bit of a triangle. And it is, it's so hard when you're the race leader and you're seeing that gap maybe diminish between you and the guys behind you to just keep at it. It's so hard to kind of stay that course and stay disciplined. And I got to wonder, as the number 49's closing up just a little bit, maybe that's what Zarello's doing. I certainly wouldn't be running that middle to high lane if you're trying to save fuel. But, it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. And we're going to know before too long, because in about 10, 15 laps is when we're going to kind of know, were these guys able to make it?
Yeah, if Zarello and Adams stay in tune with the rhythm that they've been coming onto pit road, we expect to see them on pit lane 11 laps from this time by. So we'll just have to wait and see, and that will get them to 30 laps to go. They've been going 26 laps each in those race trucks. Meanwhile, Bill Edwards in the number 50 machine, he's been stretching it out just 1 lap extra each run, and he's been able to get to the race lead every single time down pit road. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm really curious. I'm going to ask the chat, what do you guys think? What do you guys think of the current situation? Do you think it's Zarello, Adams, or do you think someone like the 50, Bill Edwards, just silently leading the race behind the scenes? Is he in the catbird seat? It's going to be Gonna be a fun one. I gotta say, we've had a lot of races like this season, Drew, that have kept us on our toes all the way to the end of the race. I know we've had more than one situation where we've had, oh my goodness, where did he come from? Right there at the end of the race. Maybe we'll have another one to close out the season with that number 50 of Edwards, because Edwards has been knocking on the door for wins all season long. He just hasn't had the wins that you would expect out of him and that number 50 machine, Drew.
No, we've certainly seen pace out of that number 50 truck. So many times this season he was so close to grabbing a victory, but just not able to do so. Of course, with the exception of Homestead, which is in 1.5 like this, also really quick at Motegi. Numerous second, third, fourth, fifth place finishes, but only the one victory. And as a guy who kind of is one of those drivers that's able to get up there and just regularly get top fives, but not usually able to get up there and grab a victory. Typically my season and at the end of the season is going to have a 1 or 2 in the win column in a season with 20, 30 plus starts. You just want more wins, right? When you're a guy that gets up there and finishes well, but doesn't always grab victories, those victories just kind of mean a little bit more. And so it would be great to see that 50 do what he needs to do to grab that victory tonight. Is Jeffrey Johnson Jr. A fantastic run in this 33 truck, and this is what got him in the chase, right? Is not qualifying, keeping that truck clean, doing what he needs to do, and grabbing a top 10. And that's what basically he did leading up to the chase. And then unfortunately, I think in the chase has maybe had a little bit of misfortune, and just quite frankly, that's not what you can do to grab the victory. You're just not going to make that strategy work as far as wins are concerned. And now we saw that 98 truck on pit road. This is basically what we're expecting for him there, Peter, is was not going to be able to make that work, and he's on pit road. Now Chris Darling is. And now I think the guys that can't make it, now they need to kind of make the decision to come early and maximize those tires, and I think that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, we definitely have certain drivers abandoning that strategy of possibly being able to make it on fuel. Like the 47 of Darling. He's made his bet at this point. Jamar Dumas also on pit road. We just saw the number 1 of Jason Grossi has also come down pit road. Like you said, trying to maximize their time on fresh tires. They know they're going to come down pit road. They know they're going to have to at some point. And fall off, we haven't really talked about fall off here tonight. To kind of put it into perspective, James Zarello last time by ran a 32.1 second lap time. That's a second and a half slower than his best lap here tonight. So fresh tires could give you, that 1.5 second advantage maybe for a lap or two. But they'll probably give you about 7 to 8 tenths of a second throughout at least their early life. So I'm sure some of these drivers are kind of factoring that in to their strategy calls, as we see Adam Dama there in the 82, the Army Esports machine, coming back out there onto the racetrack. The 44 also Philip Scott, the National Ninja League Ford F-150, coming to his pit box. So these drivers making their bed, maybe coming in a little bit early to see if they can maximize that time on the fresher tires. But with 33 laps to go, we know that they are going to have to come down at least one more time in before the checkered flag falls. Now, we're down to just 7 trucks on the lead lap. No sign of Bill Edwards coming down pit road. No sign of your race leaders coming down pit road just yet either, as these laps continue to tick off. Just 48 miles left in the 2020-2021 NSRA Simbox Truck Series. We want to thank each and every one of you for joining us here on 3Y TV, whether you joined us for one race or all the races. Maybe tonight's your first race with us here on 3Y TV. We really want to thank you for stopping by and enjoying the action here tonight. We've been caution flagged since about I'd say lap number 35 or so, Drew. We've been green flag now for quite a long period of time. The last caution flag was at 9:26 Eastern Time. That was nearly an hour ago, folks. So we have been green flag for an hour, and we still only have 0.3 of a second between our top two.
Yeah, I'm just not going to say anything because every time I've said something this season, a caution's come out. So I agree with your sentiment. But here we go. This is not doable for these race leaders here with 31 laps to go. They cannot make it from here. They are going to have to take a splash and go. And that kind of leads me to the question, Peter, why did Mitchell Adams or James Zarello not come in before this if they knew they couldn't make it? And that they were going to have to take a splash later on. I don't know why they didn't come in earlier and maybe try to maximize those tires. But do you think with that race lead that they have over Bill Edwards, that they had over JT Poole, do you think that one of these guys is going to try to save basically 13 seconds worth of gas and get them to 31 laps? Because I just don't think that's doable.
I don't think that's doable. I mean, right there, I didn't get the number, unfortunately, of when Zarello and Adams came down pit road. I think it actually might have been a little bit shorter, though, Drew, than what we had been seeing out of those two drivers. We typically been seeing 26 lap. Every 26 laps, they'd come down pit road. I don't know if we saw that there, but 29 laps ago, that's going to be a long stretch for them. Bill Edwards, on the other hand, we've been seeing him do 27 laps. Just one lap extra than those trucks behind him, but that might just get him into the window where he can make it to the end of the race. You see the fresher tires there of Gracias and Dumas right behind him. Robert Dudley, the number 15 machine, currently on pit road as well. But, whoa, man, did Gracias just get into the back of Edwards? He might have. There's a little bit of damage on the back of that number 50 S2R machine. He might still be saving fuel here, Drew, and almost might have got run over there by the number 98.
The 50's just thinking, please don't hit me. Please don't cause a caution. I think you're going to be right. I think that Gracias is just going to leave this move a little late and tap him. There you go. Tapped him going into one. And I wouldn't be very happy if I was that 50 truck. I would be like, hey, man, that's unnecessary. I'm not racing you. I'm just not. And please don't hit me going into the quarter because that's not a great thing for the stability of my vehicle on corner entry. But Bill Edwards survived that. But Peter, 13 seconds, 13.7 to be precise, between the 50 and the 49. That's not completely insurmountable if that 50 truck has to save some fuel, as he is now on pit road here with 27 laps to go. This is close. This is close. But we know the 49 and the 9 both have to pit. So I think that this is doable. I think that even if you can only run 26 laps, like the 49, the 9 have been doing, I think you can save one. I just don't think you can save 4 or 5 like those guys are basically would be forced to do. And now that 50's got fresher tires than our race leader, so he theoretically should be faster as well. And I just got to say that the 50's done a fantastic job putting himself in this position.
Yeah, and of course, here's the other thing to take into account. That's 13 seconds. Like you said, there was 13 seconds right there. When these leaders, the 49 and the number 9, next come down pit road, because Adams actually leapfrogged James Zarello again. And there you see Bill Edwards, the number 50, actually just now coming out onto the racetrack. Then the number 49 and the 9, they don't have to take a tank of fuel. They literally just need a splash of fuel. They probably only need 3 or 4 gallons to get them to the checkered flag here tonight. They're probably not going to come down and take tires. I don't think they will use that strategy. They might not. But for Bill Edwards there, he's now in danger of going a lap down. He might have to hustle here to try and stay on the lead lap, because if he goes the lap down and caution flag comes out, he kind of gets stuck in a bad spot. As look at the number 15 there of Robert Dudley. He's trying to get one of his laps back in the number 15 truck. He got caught speeding on pit road. Pit road speeding penalty for the number 15 machine. Because he was on the lead lap, now being scored 3 laps down, almost 2. But at least for Bill Edwards right now, he's trying to stay out front of the 49 machine. They don't have to come down and take a full tank of fuel. That 13 seconds, it's looking a little bit questionable between the number 50, the 49, and the number 9 machine. I don't know if that strategy it is going to be questionable. It really is going to be questionable here in the closing laps, but you're going to have to stay right here on 3Y TV to find out. What do you guys think in the chat? I don't know. This is going to be a fun one.
I think it's pretty crucial for that 50 truck to be able to stay in front of the 49 and the 9, because the delta time, right? We talk about it in other forms of motorsports like Formula One and sports cars and everything. And what's going to be the delta time to get that splash of gas and get on and off pit road, because that's what's going to determine this race win. And I think 30 seconds would be, quite frankly, pretty difficult to get that fuel and get on and off pit road, because pit road in NASCAR is so long, it's so hard to get on and off pit road. Is that 49 had quite a bit of drama through the infield, and oh my goodness, that is an impact to the inside wall, and that will be Chris Darling's night. Unfortunately, in that 47 truck, he had run relatively well before this incident, and you see, got into the wall going into the corner, clips the apron on the apex, and it just never quite settled. Did that number 47 truck, and then just catching, boom, into that peak sign on the inside wall, and that 47 truck is done. James Zarello on pit road, that number 9 truck, will he take tires? Will it just be a splash of gas? You're going to see here on 3Y TV as that number 9 truck enters this box. Right side tires for sure on that number 9 truck, and I anticipate that that's going to be it. It's going to be basically right sides, and as soon as that truck's let down, there you go. He is off and on pit road exit, but that increased that delta time that we talked about there, Peter. And the 50 truck just flashed by, actually, and I anticipate that being about 7 to 8 seconds that 50 truck is going to have over James Zarello, but Zarello's going to have those right side tires. How is that going to affect the handling of that truck? As now I believe we're going to see that 49 truck come down pit road. They're going to have those fresh right sides potentially, depending on what this 49 does. This is going to be really interesting. Does he take tires? Does he just take fuel here with just about 18 laps to go here? What does Mitchell Adams do? Does he minimize his time on pit road, or does he opt for those right side tires? Because, Peter, this is a splash of fuel here. How much gas do you think 3-4 laps requires to be able to get you to the end?
You know, I was thinking probably only about 2 gallons. Now, iRacing has increments, so you can't just pick your magic number outright. But that number 49 machine, he's going to go back out there onto the racetrack. Now, where is Bill Edwards in the number 50 machine? There is Bill Edwards. So you can see that's the race lead right there. That blue and orange machine still down there on the apron. Back behind, Edwards is going to inherit that race lead. But there is Adams. Now, where is James Zarello? There's Lorello, the number 9. So Lorello must have not had a very good pit stop or something there, Drew, because it seems like he's lost a little bit of additional time there to our race leader. Now, did Adams take tires under that pit stop as well there, Drew, or did he just decide to take a splash of fuel only?
So, from what I'm seeing, the 49 he gets into the wall on corner exit. The 49 into the wall. You see how slow he is down the backstretch. He did not take tires. That was fuel only for the 49. He loses it on corner entry, and then boom, into the outside wall. I don't think there was any contact between he and the 33. I think the 49 just, quite frankly, lost the tail end going into the corner. And when you have, cycled tires and all of a sudden a lot more weight in the back end, is the fuel cell in these trucks is located on the back end. Yeah, that 49 just lost it all by himself. I don't think the 33 really played into it other than just existing at that particular moment on the track. And I just think that the 49 just didn't play it correctly. You mentioned that the 9 might have lost time. It was just those right side tires. They took a little bit more time, but ultimately they provided the grip to not allow the mistake that we saw out of that 49. The 49's out of it, folks. He's done. I mean, unless there's a caution, I think that 49 truck is completely out of this thing. It's between that 50 and the 9 truck, and that 9, every lap is going to be closing in on that 50 truck. It's just, does he have enough time? Does he have enough equipment left? Because he's going to be pushing like crazy on those right sides, and those left sides are not new either. They're the same age as the 50 truck. So every lap that he pushes the heck out of this truck 4/10 quicker that last time by, it's going to use up a little bit more, and I expect that gap in pace to shrink as these laps go on.
Yeah, we're watching this side-by-side battle right now for the third position. Jeffrey Johnson Jr. in the number 33 is going to just let the number 9 machine roll on by. Zarello trying to tear up the racetrack to close in on his teammate there, Bill Edwards. TJ Buck will be the next car, or next truck, I should say, on James Zarello's radar, down to 5.3 seconds, 13 laps to go. Folks, you do the math. That's going to have to be about a half second a lap, maybe 4.5 tenths of a second per lap if Zarello wants to catch the number 50 and walk away with the race win. Meanwhile, Mitchell Adams, Drew, that number 49 truck killed. Truck absolutely destroyed. 4 seconds off the pace relative to the trucks around him. That is absolutely huge here. And I'm just thinking about those iRacing updates that came earlier this week, Drew. One thing that they mentioned is that they tried to add back some more aerodynamic effects to these trucks, and in fact all of the NASCARs. And I'm wondering if just the way that number 49 came up in front of the number 33, that it took some air off the rear spoiler of that truck and turned it right around. We ride on board with Zarello. Last time by, folks, if you're watching the gap between Bill Edwards and Zarello was only 0.3 of a second faster than the number 50 machine. However, he was a lot faster by TJ Buck, and he's going to pass the number 84. Buck pitted, I think, 2 laps before Bill Edwards. So TJ Buck here more than likely is in severe fuel conservation mode in the Captain Crunch Chevy Silverado. That's probably why he's really kind of struggling here relative to Zarello and even Edwards' pace. But now we can pull up the graphic, the fun graphic, because it shows 4 seconds between Edwards and Zarello. Zarello last time by, just about a half second. 10 laps to go. You do the math. And Zarello is in that realm where he would be able to catch Edwards, but catching him is one thing, passing him is another. As look at this, how the tables have turned for the number 49 machine right there, going 1 lap down.
Yeah, we talked about that the margin of error on these trucks on this track, it seems fairly wide, fairly forgiving. There's not a lot of error. Your turn-in point has to be fairly precise. Your line through the corner, where you apex, where you exit. It is a very, very sensitive track, and I think the 49 just got caught out a little bit in a way that we hadn't seen all night. And when you kind of haven't had that experience all night, when it happens, you kind of almost aren't ready for it sometimes. And perhaps that's what happened to that 49 truck. He just wasn't anticipating that truck to get loose because we hadn't seen any moments out of Mitchell Adams all night. And then unfortunately, in clutch time, when it's coming down to it, it started to over-rotate on entry, and then he was just kind of behind the whole corner through 1 and 2, and then the 33, as you talked about, maybe packed some air underneath that 49 truck as he was struggling to control it, and then that's it, right? That's it. Luckily, Mitchell was not in a position to where he had to race James Zarello for this championship, because that could have been disastrous. But speaking of Zarello, 2.685 seconds that last time by, crossing the start-finish line now. And now another half a second, 2.136. And this is going to be a nail-biter, Peter, with 6 laps to go. About a half a second. That'll put him within range with about a lap and a half left.
Yeah, really, Edwards here going to have to turn up the wick, so to speak, if he wants to walk away with the win here tonight. I know we got Bill Edwards fans in the chat. I know his mom is always watching us on 3 Wide TV. I know she wants to see Bill go to victory lane for the second time this season, going back to that one win that he has had here in the Simbox Truck Series back at Homestead, Miami, but it's now down to just 1.5 seconds with 5 laps to go. Is he trying to save fuel to try and stretch it? We know a lot of our leaders, Drew, have been hitting 26 laps. Edwards has been hitting 27 laps. on fuel. But how much fuel is he been having to save to get to that magic number? We will have to wait and see. Remember, also, fresher right side tires on the number 9 of Zarello. 1.1 seconds with 4 more laps to go.
Yeah, Zarello's done what he needed to do in order to catch that number 50 truck. Man, I mean, he's within sight now, and when you can really see that truck in front of you, you can see that closing rate. It provides you all sorts of motivation. I really expected the 9 with just right sides to plateau a little bit as he continued to push and really try to catch that number 50. I wasn't expecting this closure rate to stay constant, as you can tend to overdrive those right sides when they're new, just because, you know, they're gripping up more than those left sides and they tend to slide a little bit more. But that's certainly not what that 9 has done. Is with about 2.5 laps to go as they shoot down the backstretch, he's right there on that number 50 truck, and in fact is going to be in position to attempt the pass here with 2 to go. Does he take it high? He does. Now what's going to happen going into 1 and 2 is Zarello shoots that thing on the outside lane. The 50 is going to be in a challenging position to respond. The number 9 gets a good run, and he is clear off at 2. James Zarello assumes the race lead with just 1.5 laps to go.
And it is going to be clean sailing for James Zarello. Fresher tires on that car. We know that he can go to the end on fuel. White flag in the air for the final lap of the 2020-2021 National Sim Racing Association Simbox Truck Series. For all your Bill Edwards fans, he's going to walk away with a better finish than he would have hoped for. Look at that. The 98 and the 31 there almost having to coming together on the final lap. But for James Zarello, it won't be the championship, but nonetheless, picking up another win coming out of the final corner, goes to victory lane here at Chicagoland. Wow, what a finish, Drew.
A fantastic finish. A pass with about 2 miles left to go in the race, and James Zarello claims the race victory. Bill Edwards, so close so many times this season. Another one here tonight, but an S2R 1-2 finish. That's exactly what Bill would have wanted, as well as James Zarello. And Jeffrey Johnson Jr. P3, a fantastic finish by that number 33 truck. And we'll be talking to those top 3 finishers here in a little bit, Peter. But what a finish for especially Team S2R.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, how many times have we seen Jeffrey Johnson Jr. do what he did tonight? Get himself up towards the front of the field and starting at the back of the field, not having the best start to the race, but just not making any mistakes. If there is any person out there who is mentally stronger than Jeffrey Johnson Jr., I'd love to know, because Johnson just does not make any mistakes in the number 33 machine. As we see the number 9 machine go out there, he's going to take home the win. But there is your series champion, the number 49 of Mitchell Adams. Back-to-back championships for him. I'm sure he will be a bit disappointed with the way that race ended right there with that heavy contact with the outside wall, almost losing 2 laps in about the final 15 laps or so. That is just how much that truck was off the pace, but it doesn't matter. He is your series champion, having a fantastic Simbox Truck Series chase in the Adams Racing number 49 machine. He will get to hopefully do some celebratory burnouts here on the front stretch as the S2R machines. There's Jeffrey Johnson Jr. He's jumping in on the celebrations as well. He was on that same strategy there, Drew, in that number 33 truck as the 50 of Edwards, and it definitely worked out for both of them really well. In fact, I bet you if Zarello wanted to go back and redo, he probably would have used that strategy as well. Even though he still won the race on his particular strategy, it worked out so well for Edwards and Jeffrey Johnson Jr., both of those drivers not quite having the pace as number 9 machine, but walking away with a podium each. It was definitely a good night for them. But folks, we're going to watch the number 49 machine burn it down here on the front stretch. We're going to see while we watch Adams celebrate whether or not we can get some of these interviews lined up with our other podium finishers and then ultimately with our series champion. We will be right back here on 3 Wide TV. All right, folks. Well, while Mitchell Adams, our series champion, was there burning things down here on the front stretch, we were able to get some post-race interviews lined up for all of us. And the first one here is going to be Jeffrey Johnson Jr. in the number 33 machine, using that strategy to reduce the number of pit stops he had to take. And it worked out really, really, really well for you there, Jeffrey. We've seen it so many times this season that you don't qualify where you want to qualify. You don't have the first 20, 30 laps that you might want. But as the race goes on, you just mentally don't make any mistakes. You mentally make the right calls. And I don't think there's a smarter driver in the entire field than you in that number 33 machine. You were able to get yourself into the chase, and here you are with a podium right here in the final race. Tell us a little bit about your night.
Well, in practice, I wasn't nearly as good as I thought I would be. Last week after Phoenix was kind of a flip, man. I was like the 6th fastest car most of practice, and come to race time, it just didn't, the car wasn't there. So this week I got some practice in on Chicago, and tonight I knew that I could run fast with the leaders, but I could only do it for about 10 laps. So I tried my best to save as much fuel as I could and hope that we didn't get any cautions. And when it come down to it, I crossed the stripe with 0.3 of a gallon left, and it got us third.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it definitely was a fantastic night there. Talking about that pit strategy, I mean, we saw different things out of different drivers. We saw Adams and Zarello just go out. They were the rabbits for everyone to catch up there at the front of the field. At what point there, of course, with the fact that you had 112 laps or so of consecutive green flag racing, at what point did you think about it and go, man, if I save an extra lap of fuel, if I can hit this number lap or this fuel number, then I can make it on one less stop? At what point did that occur to you during that 112 lap stint?
It was right around the stop, right before 100. So I was watching when the leaders were pitting, and I was able to clutch it a little bit in 3 and 4 and not lose any time off TJ Buck in front of me. So I used that to kind of stretch that out further. And then on that last stop, TJ Buck pitted 2 laps ahead of me. So at that point, I knew that I was going to have him. So if he pitted, I was going to have to pit. And with 10 to go, the math wasn't there for him, but it was there for me. And once we hit the draft, it was a lot easier for me to save that extra 1/10 of a gallon. And as we saw, it was a big factor in me coming home third.
Well, definitely a fantastic run for you here tonight, walking away with a podium finish. And of course, it was a long season. And looking back over the season, I'm sure this is going to be one of the highlights. But what else stood out to you this year?
The competition, I wouldn't say was drastically different, but it was a lot more challenging. Most of the time I can finish in the top 10, and to have a chance at the series, that's not going to do it. You got to be a top 3 car. And if you can't do that week to week, it's really hard to compete with Zarello, Edwards, and Mitchell. Not that that's a bad thing, but other than that, it seemed like we had a great group of guys, and the track setups were a little challenging, but for some people it worked out really well.
Yeah, it definitely was a great season for you, of course, making the Simbox chase and ending out your season on a high here at Chicagoland. Jeffrey, before we let you go, you got any shout-outs for us?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the NSRA guys for putting us on. I know that Chris Darling and Ben Adams put a lot of time into this. I would like to thank my girlfriend for watching these races, and my friends also that tune in every week. And then all my clients at New Edge Auto Detailing that tune in and root us on. It's just nice to be able to run out here and give some good entertainment.
Absolutely. Well, Jeffrey, thanks for stopping by up here in the 3Wide TV booth. Best of luck. Hopefully you come back in the Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series here in the National Sim Racing Association next year, once again, here on 3Wide TV all season long. But Jeffrey, until we see you again here on the channel, best of luck, and hopefully you can pick up some more podiums out there.
You bet. Have a good one.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for our interview here with tonight's third-place finisher. I believe Drew Eisenman has caught up with tonight's runner-up. It was oh so close for Bill Edwards there, Drew.
Yeah, Bill Edwards, Drew Eisenman up here in the 3Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Okay.
Well, Bill, only about a lap and a half short as far as maintaining the race lead was concerned. What was going through your mind when you saw that 9 truck closing in on your rearview mirror?
Oh, with like 5 to go, I thought I had a chance, but I pushed my tires. I saved exactly 1 lap too much fuel, so I should have pushed just a tiny bit harder and ran it out right at the line. But I figured I'd try a little fuel strategy. I seen everybody else was kind of short pitting from the get go, so I just did the opposite and tried to save a little bit here and there, and almost had it.
Yeah, and I was rooting for you. It's always fun to see those alternative strategies kind of play out, especially in that dramatic of a fashion. But kind of looking back on your 2020, 2021 NSRA Simbox Truck Series season, is there a moment that sticks in your mind? Is it your win at Homestead? What runs through your mind when you think back on this season as we conclude it tonight?
Good question. I'm just doing my normal thing. Try to be as fast as you can, save as much as you can here. Save tires, save fuel. I guess there's no one particular moment. I do enjoy it when me and James get 1-2s. So probably, I think there's been a couple of those this year. Those kind of stick out, but it's a little bit nicer when it's 1-2 the other way around, though. When I get the 1.
Yeah, absolutely. I could understand those sentiments, but you had a heck of a season. You competed in a bunch of races. You grabbed a victory. You almost did that tonight. What are you thinking about and looking forward to, and what are your expectations going into next season?
I'm hoping it's just kind of similar as it is this year. I want some clean green flag runs, and I hope it's just as much fun as we've been having, because it's been a good time. I've been really enjoyed racing with all these guys, and the whole league as a whole has been really good to us. So, yeah.
Well, congratulations on your second place. So close to being able to close that thing out, but an S2R 1, 2. Before we let you go, any final thoughts, any shout outs that you'd like to give?
I gotta say, thanks to you guys up in the booth, 3 Wide TV, Simbox, I think Butt Kicker and Brookstone Animal Hospital, and all the sponsors that we've had throughout the year here. That helps makes this stuff possible. I gotta give a shout out to my family, my mom. I think my brother might even be watching tonight, and gotta say thanks to all the drivers and my teammates S2R. I gotta say congrats to James. Just had a baby this week, so. Congrats on a win and a baby all in the same week. Other than that, no, I think that's about it.
All right, Bill. Well, thanks for talking with us. And again, congratulations on your second place finish.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our second place finisher here tonight. Let's see if we can dial up tonight's race winner, James Zarello. Of course, we will get to our series champion in just a little bit, but James, you did battle there with the number 49 machine for many, many laps here tonight, with you leading 46 laps. Adams led 64 laps. But what was going through your head? Because all of a sudden, you weren't battling with the number 49 machine. You were battling with your teammate, the number 50 of Bill Edwards.
Yeah, Bill had mentioned to me earlier in the race that he thought he could save enough fuel, and I had it in the back of my mind, and couldn't believe that he pulled it off there, and he was really close to having me. I just was trying to run him down, but not burn off my tires that were even. But it was really fun racing with Mitchell the rest of the night. It was just back and forth. Really a great time and a fun race. Glad we had so many green flag laps.
Yeah, in fact, over an hour consecutive of green flag running here tonight in the final race of the 2020-2021 NSRA Simbox Truck Series Championship. Definitely a fun one. And one thing we haven't asked any drivers yet is iRacing recently added a couple of tweaks to their multi-groove racing. Didn't see a whole lot of that out there tonight. Any comment on that?
No, I didn't really sense it there here at Chicagoland, and I didn't run any practice laps, so I didn't try running near the wall. So yeah, I couldn't really feel anything out there in this race so far, but hopefully at some of the other tracks it'll come into play.
All right, well, I'll turn the table over to Drew Eisenman. Drew, do you have any questions for the driver of the number 9 machine, with Zarello picking up a significant amount of wins this season? Definitely, I'm sure there's quite a few questions you can ask.
Absolutely, James. I would argue that week in, week out, you were the guy to that I looked towards as far as what to do to be successful, and a guy that I expected to run up front. And the chase just got away from you a little bit. Not trying to be a jerk, but just like, how disappointing is it when you're just so dominant in the regular season and you win the regular season as you did, for it just to not quite work out in the chase the way that it did.
Yeah, I don't think you're being a jerk. It's just the reality. It was really stinks. It was unfortunate because I had such a great season and was really running strong. I think it would have been close with Mitchell, a couple points, and with Bill. But a couple of bad runs there, and those run-ins with other drivers. Hopefully, I think the league is better for it, honestly, after all that. And hopefully that stuff has kind of gone away. It really stunk. I had a string there of finished outside the top 20, and that Talladega wreck really did me in as far as points wise, because a lot of people showed up for Talladega. So it was great to get a win tonight. Great to finish off the season like that, to show, oh yeah, wait a minute, I can still win this league, and could have been competing for the championship. But we'll have to go get him next year. But either way, congrats to Mitchell. I mean, he was there all year, and we had a great back and forth. This was a great race between the two of us. I just think it was, he still deserved to win. I don't think that there was anything else that could have happened. He's a great driver, and glad he won it.
Absolutely not trying to take away from anything that Mitchell accomplished this season, but it did kind of feel like the regular season and the chase had a little bit different tone. Was that your perspective? And if so, or if not, could you just expound upon that?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. There was something about the playoffs there that tempers flared, and a little more aggressive driving, more cautions in a lot of the short tracks. than I think we had during the year. So I'm not sure what was going on necessarily, but folks were really running a lot faster there by the end of the season. I think a lot of people had made ground on the top guys, and it wasn't, we weren't going to go out there and beat them by a bunch of seconds every night. So I'm not sure, honestly, what changed other than running with each other all year and getting tired of some things. But I hope, I think through this playoffs, I think folks will be ready to go for the new season. Again, disappointing for our team, but glad I could pull out this win. I know I'll hopefully be competitive again next year, but it stinks to lose one when I think I won 7 races and was really close this year. So,
yeah, no, I mean, I think for quite a large portion of the season, you were kind of the standard, and there's only one guy that can win the championship, and not being that guy, I don't think makes this season anything short of a success for you. And I wish you the best. Congratulations on a heck of a season and all your wins. But before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, just thanks to to our teammates, thanks to Bill and Ben and everybody. It was really, really great for me and Bill to get a 1-2 finish there to finish the season, so that we'll be strong next year. And really congrats to Mitchell. Hats off to him. That was really fun racing with him tonight, back and forth. And thanks to everybody in the league. And I know we've got some great sponsorship on board this year and exciting for next year. I'm going to need the month off because I just had a baby girl on Monday. So my wife was kind enough to give me 2 hours off tonight from baby watch to race because I said it was the last race of the season and wanted to get it in, even though I couldn't win the championship. So after this, I got to go run and take care of baby. But I appreciate you guys broadcast and can't wait to go watch it after this.
Yeah, you have nighttime duty tonight, James. You're gonna have to take
Big
the
time
whole
nighttime duty. Yeah.
the whole night.
I'll be on the recliner for sure. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to have you up. Thanks having you up here in the booth. Congratulations on what I believe is 7 wins on the season here in the Simbox Truck Series. And James, enjoy your time off here over the next couple of weeks, and hope to see you in the next season.
See you guys soon.
All right, well, that is going to do it for tonight's race winner. But, of course, the interview that everyone's been waiting for, our series champion, driver of the number 49 machine, taking home the Simbox Truck Series crown. Drew Eisenman's caught up with Mitchell Adams.
Hey, Mitchell Adams, Drew Eisman up here in the 3-Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, I do.
Well, Mitchell, I mean, given your performance for 90% of the race, maybe 95%, maybe not the ending that you would want, but certainly the result as far as the championship picture is concerned. Just give us kind of a rundown of how tonight went for you.
I mean, tonight, it's not a track I've always liked, so the goal was just to kind of put up a good, solid run in tonight's race, and really just the 49 truck was super fast tonight. Broke away with James there for most of it, and I think coming down, I thought Bill had that race won with his pit strategy, but came out in front of him, and I think in hindsight we might have had that race. I'm not sure because James was really fast, so just kind of threw that one away there. That one was on me, but just, that stuff happens, but I mean, it doesn't take away from the championship. We still won and put together a great season, and managed to come in a points position where we could afford to make a mistake like that and still walk away with this thing.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of walk us through that last run. We saw the 9 take right sides, the 50 stay out, and then you took fuel only at least from what we saw. Sometimes the iRacing rendering of a pit stop isn't completely accurate, but just kind of walk us through your decision to take fuel only, if that's what happened, and then the subsequent events.
No, I did take 2 right side tires on that last stop there. I knew James Pitt, and I had Colin Ullery, my teammate, kind of talking me through that, and thought James took 2 tires, so I just kind of matched it on that last stop, and knew once I came out front, I thought it was going to be smooth sailing to a top 3. It didn't quite work out that way, but yeah, it's just, the strategy worked out. I thought Bill ran a great strategy there at the end, and I really thought he was going to hang on to that, but James was really fast. He deserved that win. We raced with him all race long.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately the championship picture worked out for you. What was your kind of mindset going into the chase? Because we had seen that 9 truck be so quick, so dominant through the regular season, including kind of the regular season championship, if you will, that, what kind of changed as far as your approach, or did anything change? Just how did you approach that chase knowing the goal that you had in mind?
I mean, the chase is a different mindset because, once you get in a points position in the regular season where you're going to be in the chase, you can kind of really get aggressive. And one bad race in the chase can mess it all up. In the regular season, we got a late start to the season. We missed a lot of races, so I was really confident to finish third in the regular season points, having gotten a late start on it. And that really just, once we got a good run at Pocono to start the playoffs off, because that's a really strong track for me, the momentum just kept building, and we had a lot of great runs throughout the playoffs. And I think that's what did it, was we just, a lot of consistency, and, a lot of stuff happened to our competitors, and that definitely helped. But I think the 49 definitely ran a really strong playoffs.
No, I absolutely agree. You put yourself in a position to where in the final race, I mean, you essentially just had to start the thing to be able to lock this championship up. And, when you see your competitors have some misfortune, like the 9 did at Talladega, and various other competitors had throughout the season, does that even flash through your mind, or are you just focused on the end state? When you see what happened with the 9 at Talladega, are you like, okay, well, now I need to maximize this, or I need to just ensure that I have an advantage coming out of this event? What's your mindset when that type of stuff happens?
Well, first off, you really don't want to see things like that happen to your competitors. Like, it helps me from a points perspective, but you don't want to have that things happen, because we're competitive out here, but still love racing with them. And, we all work hard at this season, and so you want everybody to be close for it at the end. But I mean, when stuff like that I'm not involved in happens, you're coming into every race wanting to maximize your points and get as much as you can. And so it doesn't really change when things like that happens. It's a chance to capitalize, but you don't want to see things like that happen, but they do sometimes, and you just got to keep racing like you always would.
Well, Mitchell, thank you for talking with me. I'm going to go ahead and throw it to Peter. I know he certainly has questions for you, so Peter, take it away.
Yeah, and of course, the first one being you went back-to-back, in the National Sim Racing Association Truck Series here with the Simbox Truck Series this season. Next season, we got a new sponsor. Of course, we've got Stay Tuned Sports on board. What are your thoughts about going back-to-back-to-back? Do you like your chances at walking away with 3 in a row?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. These last few races in the season have been really strong, but there's been a lot of drivers really just come out and have really strong runs during these last parts of the season, and there's a lot of new drivers I think are going to really be championship threats next season. So I do really like the 49's chances. I think we're about as good as we've been this season right now. But definitely there's a lot more drivers I think you're going to have to look out for next season. But definitely feel like we've got a good chance to go and get another one.
Definitely going to be a fun season, a little bit shorter season next season here on 3 Wide TV. Only 18 races versus the 24 points paying races that we saw in this particular season. So that could factor into the picture as well with who walks away with the series title. But Mitchell, wow, fantastic season for you again, walking away as a champion. I remember talking back in the Simbox 250 back at Daytona, all eyes being on you as the champion, the reigning champion. And here we are all the way at the end of the season at Chicagoland with you picking up another one. Before we let you go, any shout-outs?
Yeah, I've got some shout-outs. Just, thank you to all my family. They help me and let me come out and race every Friday night. Mom, Dad, Nana and Papa, Aunt Kelly, everybody that watches the 49 race. Thank you to you all. The broadcasts are always great, and I can't wait to go watch myself throw this race away again tomorrow. Thank you to all the sponsors in the NSRA, Stay Tuned Sports. Big thank you to Simbox, of course, for helping put this season on. Brookstone Animal Hospital, Taz Racing Customs. Anybody else I'm forgetting, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. Sim Shots, that's it. It's a tongue twister. And thank you to Butt Kickers, also sponsor the 49 truck next season.
Yeah, really cool to have Butt Kicker jumping on board, actually sponsoring the National Sim Racing Association as well. So this league is really going places when you start to see people like Stay Tuned Sports, Butt Kicker, Simbox jumping on board and sponsoring these series. Really looking forward to calling all the action next year, Mitchell. But until you get back out there on the racetrack, we're going to have about a month off here before we get to Daytona. That race being April 16th. Right here on 3 Wide TV. And in fact, it's going to be 300 miles, an extra 50 miles than what we saw this past year around the famed Daytona International Speedway. So, Mitchell, enjoy your month off as the champion, but we re-rack them, do it all again here in about a month from right now. Good luck there, bud.
Peter, thank you, Drew.
All right, well, Drew, wow. Season in the books here tonight with the number 49 machine taking home the series championship. Absolutely very, very impressive to see him keep that crown. But he didn't walk away with a win here tonight. James Zarello picking up his 7th win of the season. Bill Edwards, Jeffrey Johnson Jr., big shout out to those two because each one of those drivers picked up 22 positions here tonight, and those two drivers will share the Taz Racing Customs Biggest Mover of the Race Award. Make sure you check out Taz Racing Customs for your custom diecast needs. If you want an iRacing car turned into a diecast, go hit them up because they'll hook you up. Same thing with any custom NASCAR scheme or any particular racing scheme. If you will, go check out our friends, and they will be able to give you all of their details. Jeffrey Johnson Jr. finishing in 3rd, JT Poole, and TJ Buck finishing 4th and 5th. Jason Gracias, Jamar, Dumas, Mike Floppy Tallier in 8th. Your pole sitter here tonight picked up that Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award early in the night, but wasn't able to convert it into a win. Barry Knapp there, 42 machine. Pretty quiet night for him. However, he was able to walk away with a 9th place finish. And Mitchell Adams had that wall contact there with about 15 laps to go or so. He almost lost 2 laps. But nonetheless, picking up the championship, no less, Drew.
And Doug Milner will finish P11, the first truck 2 laps down. Robert Dudley in P12. Philip Scott, the disappointing results for him considering the pace that 44 truck had and that unfortunate speeding penalty that kind of relegated him to finishing outside of the top 10. Ray Heilig in that number 31 truck, he'll finish P14. Adam Dama, 4 laps down, maybe not the perfect result, but I think all things considered a solid finish for that number 82 truck, will finish in P15. Jordan Shepler in that 13 truck, some kind of early. I feel like it was on lap in the first 5 laps at least. Did that 13 make a little bit of contact with that outside wall? So a solid result bringing that thing home in 16th. And now we're getting towards the guys who had some substantial misfortune in the race. The number 47 truck at Chris Darling, we saw what happened late in the race on the backstretch to him. He'll finish in P17. Ben Mashburn kind of had all sorts of drama with that 24 truck, and he will finish in 18th position. Colin O'Leary in the number 62 truck will finish in 19th, and Peter Serto in that number 32 will round out our top 20.
And finishing in the 21st position here tonight, Matt Vander Kooi, who peeled off the racetrack there just after the halfway mark. Travis White in the number 23 machine. Didn't see what happened to Travis White in that truck, but he peeled off the racetrack on his own accord, finishing 118 laps down. David Harvey, we saw him involved in that accident there with Ben Izenga. Both of those trucks heavily damaged. Jeff Price had an incident on the front stretch. Luckily, didn't take out a good portion of the field, and he was in the chat here on 3 Wide TV, said, man, I just turned it up into the wall as to not wreck the whole field. That was a good move that you did, Jeff, not to involve more trucks, but unfortunately it ended your night in doing so, finishing 148 laps down. Ben Adams, Doug McNeil had a coming together very early in the race. The first caution flag of the night between the 5 and the 77. But those two trucks were the last two drivers that are in the race results, because Garrett Gleason in the number 7 machine, he was on pit road for the entirety of the event here tonight, but never actually got out there onto the racetrack. So he'll be scored with a 28th place finish. Mitchell Adams led 64 laps on his way to picking up the Simbox Series crown. But Drew, it's about a month off for us until April, when we go back to Daytona. We do have the duels. Those start on April 9th. Then, of course, the Daytona 300, which will happen on April 16th right here on 3Wide TV. Looking forward to a new championship. Hopefully pick up a couple new faces, and we'll do it all again, Drew.
Yes, I before we leave, I will just plead to iRacing to fix the super speedway package stuff before Daytona. That's my only thought. This has been a great season. It's been so much fun to cover it. I'm really looking forward to the next one. I just would really like iRacing to fix the super speedway stuff that they unfortunately broke in this last patch before we broadcast from Daytona in mid-April. But I'm looking forward to it regardless. And Peter, you've done a fantastic job guiding this ship through the season. Thank you. And thanks to everybody at home for watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Big shout out to everyone in the chat each and every week. We really do appreciate it. Want to give a huge shout out to Simbox for sponsoring this championship. Of course, there's a link in the description here tonight, Simbox PC. That's their Facebook.com link. So facebook.com/SimboxPC. Go check them out for custom button boxes for your iRacing sim rig, or even if you don't have one of them fancy sim rigs, you can use those button boxes for just about anything or any type of game you might play. Also, big shout out to Taz Racing Customs, Sim Racing Shirts, Max Grafix, and all the other sponsors, including Brookstone Animal Hospital. I don't even think we had a Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award here tonight. With the lack of caution flags that eventually didn't come out here at Chicagoland Speedway. But a big shout out to them, located in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And if you are in Atlanta, Georgia, make sure you take your animal to the Brookstone Animal Hospital, one of the National Sim Racing Association League sponsors. I believe they will be on board next season as well. So big shout out to them. But that's going to wrap it up for all of us here. Big shout out to our friends over at SimTV as well for the camera angles that we bring you each and every week here on the channel. But I think with that's going to do it for us right here on the channel, folks. Make sure you join us a couple weeks time, April 9th, for the Daytona Duels to set the lineup for the Daytona 300 on April 16th for the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series. But for myself, Peter Short, Drew Eisenman, have a good night, and we shall see you then. See ya!